It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. 9 days from opening day. LSU will take on VMI 2 p.m. Friday, February the 16th as they start their defense of national title number 7 in pursuit of national title number 8. On today's show, we turn it over to you, the listener. Put a call out on Monday evening for questions. We do this every year during the preseason. It's our little Q&A. Y'all answered the bell big time this year. We got a lot of questions to get to. Might actually not get to all of them today. Might have to come back to some of them tomorrow on a different show. But we're going to do our very best to get through them all before the end of the week, and hopefully on today's show. So very much appreciate the interaction. Love doing that. Again, I've said it plenty of times. It's just fun to come here and talk baseball with all of you. That's really what this is about. So excited to dive into them. You came with some really good questions too that I've already kind of looked at some of them and looked up some stuff for it. And some of them really made me think. So excited to hop in and get started with that. But first, I have to remind you to subscribe up everywhere you find the podcast, right? And specifically on the YouTube channel here. Just go to YouTube, type in Musso at the box, hit subscribe, hit the bell. That way you'll be notified each time a new episode is posted. Does great to help the channel out, obviously, if you like and share the podcast as well. So that's greatly appreciated. Leave comments. I've been starting to interact on there as well. So get to the YouTube channel. Really trying to grow the video element this year. Subscribe up. If for some reason it doesn't come up when you type in Musso at the box, you can always go to the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel, and the Musso at the box channel is linked there. So get subscribed up. It's greatly appreciated. And then look, if you're in the audio camp, who's still just listening to it at the gym or on your drive home or drive to work, whatever it may be, you can subscribe anywhere you find your podcast. Again, like and share. Follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew. That's greatly appreciated as well. All right, let's dive in. I really need to get Twitter fixed on this laptop that I have sitting to my left, because having to do this on my phone is not the best. We manage, we get it done, but it'd just be a lot easier if I could actually use the computer that I have sitting to my left for that, as well as, notes and stats and information of that sort. But anyway, I digress, and we'll move on. That's a problem for another day, but we're gonna make sure that does in fact get fixed at some point. All right. Let's dive in. As I said, sent out a request on Monday evening for questions for today's show so we could do our listener Q&A, and the response was tremendous, and we have plenty to get to. So we'll start off here. LA Astros sent in, do you think Justin Lohr is the first guy to get a shot at closer? We talked about Justin Lohr, obviously, yesterday. Transfer from Xavier, if you missed the show. Had 7 saves for the Musketeers, a really good Musketeer team that ended up Big East tournament champions and in a regional final last year. So very talented. He was their closer. 7 saves, 6 wins. So factored in on the right side of 13 different decisions. Had a sub-2 ERA, a sub-200 opponent's batting average against. He was awesome last year. First shot, I'm inclined to say yes, but I also think it very heavily depends on the situation of the game. Whichever way they decide to stack that, whether it be Lohr set up Guidry or Guidry set up Lohr, you're going to like the way that plays out more often than not. It's something we've talked about already, and it's something we'll continue to talk about through the preseason and through the season, the unique position that LSU's in with two guys who get that, two guys who have that ability, I should say, to close out a baseball game for you. I mean, look, Gavin Guidry was on the mound in huge spots for LSU last year, so I don't want to just brush him aside and be like, yes, it's Justin Lohr's opportunity. But I do think, when I go back and I look, see, this is why I need Twitter also on the laptop. Hold on one second. When I go back and I look at, some of the stuff from the fall, Justin Lohr's right up there with guys like Gage Jump and whatnot in leading the team in certain categories. So I absolutely think that he had a 116 batting average against in the fall. That was second on the team. He had an 0.90 whip. That was third on the team. Granted, Gavin Guidry didn't pitch in the fall, so he's hamstrung a little bit there as well. And that's another reason I think that, yes, Justin Lohr gets the first opportunity, is because while it's not going to be to the extent of, the slow buildup they had for Guidry last year, it is going to still be somewhere in that range. So, yes, I think Justin Lohr will get the first shot for LSU. But, again, it's going to be a tandem with him and Guidry, and whichever way they choose to stack that, whoever sets up who, you're going to be in really good shape there. You have two dominant pitchers at the back end of your bullpen who both have experience closing out not just games, big games with, championship implications on them. Gavin Guidry got the last outs of the national championship game, for crying out loud. So, yes, absolutely. And I do think it's Lohr for all the reasons that we said, and it's not a slight at all towards Gavin Guidry. He's fantastic. James Corwin sent in, I said, God forbid Tommy has an injury like last year with his shoulder, but who fills in for him while he's on the mends? Well, James, I'll tell you, Tommy's not really on the mend. I mean, Tommy's out there full go going. I mean, he's playing third base. He's doing everything. So Tommy White's going to be out there on opening day. If that's what you meant, he looks great. He had a home run in one of the scrimmages. I believe it was on either Thursday or Friday of last week. He's looked good at third base. I mean, one time I went out there, Tommy hit one of the scrimmages I went out to in the preseason here so far, Tommy White took an at bat in every inning that his team was up to bat. Like, it didn't matter where they were in the lineup, they were getting Tommy in just to build him up. So he's not on the mends. I mean, he's good, man. He had surgery right after Omaha and sat out the entire fall, and he's good to go now. What I will say to the first part of your question there is, God forbid he has an injury, and that's something we mentioned in the first podcast of this season so far, was that's something I'm going to be very keen to keep an eye on, is the health of LSU's infield, because you have White, Braswell, Pearson, who's going to be, trying out at second base, playing his first year there. Jared Jones at first base, and Jared's going to really have to hit the baseball to stay in that spot. But those are veteran guys. Again, Pearson maybe not veteran at second base in that position yet, but veteran guys. Behind them, outside of Ben DePolt, it's a bunch of freshmen on the infield. So you need the infield to stay healthy if you're LSU. That is something maybe underrated to keep an eye on this year, is the health. Because outside of that, you got Ryan Kucherek, you have Austin Rolig, you have Stephen Milam, you have a bunch of freshmen. Jake Brown can play first base. Now, he has mentioned, Jay Johnson has mentioned the potential of Brady Neal playing infield as well. But again, that's inexperience at that kind of spot. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. I will tell you this. I think just about any of those positions, definitely third base. Say Tommy does get injured, I think you see Ben DePolt slide in right there. Ben's been living over there a lot kind of in preseason, whether it be third base or shortstop or even second base. I mean, he can play all three of the infield positions. So he is a valuable piece for you. And if one of them does go down, I think he's your first chance. But the offensive component will come in there. Well, he's going to have to hit the ball to stay in that spot if something like that happens. Let's hope it doesn't, all right? Let's just hope they all stay healthy and you don't really have to worry about injuries on the infield there, because you have numbers, you have bodies. You don't have the experience, I think, that you would like to have there. But for now, Tommy's good. He's ready to go. He'll be out there on opening day. Adam on Twitter, at GoTigers2025. Will Cam Johnson be first out of the bullpen on the weekend? No, not yet. And I think if you see Cam on the weekend, it's going to be towards the back end of the bullpen role as well. But I think they're going to want to bring him along a little bit slowly. I think you could see him more in the midweek to start and then progress towards a weekend role for this LSU team, hopefully down the stretch and, mid-season down the stretch. The stuff is pretty darn fantastic from everything I've heard. I'll be candid. Through fall and this preseason, I have missed every outing. I have never been there on a day and gotten lucky where Cam Johnson's out there pitching. So I still have not seen this kid with my own two eyes. The only thing I've ever seen from him is all the prospect video from draft and stuff like that. Those like minute 20 clips or whatnot, where it's just, a scout filming on his phone with the radar gun in the middle of the screen. But from that, yeah, he looks great. I can't wait to actually watch him. But again, from everything I've heard from kind of the role he's played in the scrimmages, it looks like it'd be more towards probably a back end of a bullpen role. So probably not first out. And I think they want to bring him along a little slower. Maybe you don't need to rush him in. They feel like they have some veterans out there that they could throw, before that. Maybe you see him on like a Sunday out of the bullpen early on in the season, and then midweek. That's where I think he slots in early. But it definitely wouldn't surprise me, given the sheer talent and the ability, if you see him on the weekend at some point for LSU this season. Living Lambeau. We'll go to Living Lambeau. Who is a guy that may not make a big impact opening weekend, but by the time the last weekend of SEC play rolls around will be a key contributor? That's a really hard question. We kind of got that one a little bit too. Somebody mentioned something like who's this year's Cade Beloso. I can't find it right now, but that's a really difficult question, because if I knew the answer, they wouldn't be this year's Cade Beloso, right? No one saw that coming. So that's why that's difficult. I don't want that to be a cop-out. Let me look at let me pull the roster up real quick and kind of run through it. Now I'll see if anybody really sticks out that I think, man, what I've seen from them so far, and whatnot. Maybe who might not be a big contributor opening weekend, but by the end of SEC play. Man, that is just a really, really tough question. You know who I'll go with? I will go with Ethan Fry. It's not that he's a veteran or anything like that, but the at-bats are always really good when I watch Ethan Fry in these scrimmages, and even, to some extent last year. He hits the damn cover off the baseball. I mean, you all know that. If you've watched LSU and watch him taking it bat, this kid just smokes it. I mean, last year he had 19 at bats, hit 263 in very limited action, but did drive in 9 runs. So, like, the production is potentially there. And like I said, the at bats are good. On Sunday when I was out there, he roped a double over 100 miles an hour off the bat. The thing with Fry is they have to find a spot for him to play in the field, or he's going to DH. And if he DHs, that's going to potentially push Travinsky behind the plate. Or, can Fry play first base? They've tried him there. They've tried him in the outfield. He can catch. Some they've tried him there. So, there's plenty of options where to put him. They just have to find the one that maybe fits right. But the bat really, really, really has the potential to play, man. It's unlimited potential at the plate for that kid. So, based on that, I will say Ethan Fry. I say Ethan Fry finds his way into the lineup at some point this year and makes a big impact. Maybe you don't see it that large opening weekend, but later in the season, potentially, yes. Tyler L. Smith on Twitter. This is a fantastic question. It was one of the first ones that caught my eye when I was scrolling through this. Tyler asks, how does this team compare to other teams following a national championship? And I'm going to be brutally honest with y'all. I am shocked. There weren't more. And it's not necessarily what his question was asking, but there wasn't more, hey, how do they do it again? How do they repeat? Can they repeat? Can they do this? Blah, blah, blah. Because isn't that what everybody's looking forward to right now? Is LSU making another run to Omaha and winning national title number 8? I know that's what I'm looking forward to. I know that's what Jay Johnson's got his eye on. I know that's what all those players, 1 to 40, 1 to 35, however many they've cut it down to at this point, that's what they've got all their eyes on. Every assistant, that's what everybody has their eyes on, right? And I know that's not necessarily what Tyler asked, but in asking, hey, how do they compare to other teams who defended a national championship? He's basically asking, hey, can they do it again? Short answer, can they do it again? Sure, they're definitely talented enough. How do they compare to other teams following a national championship? Well, we could go all the way back to 1992 if you wanted to and look at that. But I think the first team everybody's going to think about is the one who actually won it the second year in a row, and that was the 1997 team. I can see similarities to that team and this team. I can get into a few of them for you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you LSU is going to go win the national championship again this year. I'm not going to tell you they're going to go 57-13 like 97 did. The 57 wins, that's the most in program history. 1997 and 2013. Those are the teams that they both won 57 games. But when you look at it, it's fair. The reason I say that is in 1997, you had a major bat come back in Eddie Furness. You have a major bat come back this year in Tommy White. That's a big, comparison there. You add Brandon Larson out of the transfer portal, out of junior college. We know how that went. He hit 40 home runs and 118 RBIs. He was awesome. That definitely bolstered your lineup. You had a great freshman in Blair Barbier, obviously come in that year and have a fantastic season. You could see that potentially maybe with a guy like Jake Brown, be that freshman this year who just steps up and is awesome. Mike Kerner was back and took a step forward from 1996. Trey McClure was back and took a step forward, there. So you had that kind of stuff when you look at a guy potentially like a Paxton Clean. Can he take a step forward? A Jared Jones, can they take a step forward? Guys like that. But the thing is, with this team, and why I think they compare favorably to a team like 1997, is they have the pitching back. They have the pitching in the starting pitching specifically. LSU has Thatcher Hurd coming back. Think of that in the sense of our friend Patrick Coogan. Well, that makes sense. It's not just because he was the winning pitcher in the 96 game and Hurd was the winning pitcher last year. That's just a coincidence. But, that's a guy who only had, he was in a starting role and a bullpen role in 96. Came back really, starting role more in 97, like you expect Thatcher Hurd to be. They added Doug Thompson to the starting rotation out of junior college, where you've added, Luke Coleman or Gage Jump out of the transfer portal. Kevin Shipp was back in 97 from 96. So they compare very favorably. I mean, good Lord. I mean, Krista Mui was great that year. Dan Guillory was back and took a step forward. So that's really why I say, yeah, they compare favorably to a team like that. They have the pitching back. 2001's kind of the same way. The 2001 team, many would tell you, was arguably better and more talented than the 2000 team. That's crazy to think, because the 2000 team's arguably LSU's best national championship team. When you look at guys who went on to the pros, but if you go to 2001, I mean, and you kind of go back and look at the pitching. You added stellar freshman in Lane Mestepe that year, but you had Jason Scobie back. Shane Newman pitched in the major leagues. Like, they had the pitching there. They lost in the Super Regional, but they had the pitching. That's the same thing. That's why I look at this and I say, yeah, they compare favorably with teams like that, because this LSU team is set up with the pitching, and specifically the starting pitching. Like every team that we just, like the 97 team, the 2001, they had really, really good starting pitching on those clubs. You go back to 2010, they did not have good starting. They had Anthony Renato, but then he got hurt that year. You're bringing your ace back. He got hurt that year, and Austin Ross couldn't really hold the line there. I think it was Joey Bourgeois at one point, in your starting rotation. It didn't. Yeah, and you had a lot back. You had a lot back from that club in 2009, especially offensively. But the pitching wasn't capable enough to hold you down, to hold the line for you. That's why when I look at this team, I compare it more favorably to a team like 1997, offensively and defensively. Offensively and on the mound, guys coming back and additions that potentially you made. But favorable, sure. I mean, yeah, LSU can go do it again, but it's hard. It hasn't been done since 2006, 2007 with Oregon State. And you've never been able to build it faster than you can now with the transfer portal. And it still hasn't been done in over a decade. The transfer portal's not new anymore. Like, coaches know how this works. We all know how this works now. Coaches know how it works. The players know how it works. That's not new. And it's still real difficult for teams to go back to back. But if you're asking me how LSU compares to former teams throughout its history that had to defend the national championship, I would say favorable, and I would point mainly to 97 and to 2001 as the two teams. One of them won it, one of them lost in Super Regional. So either way, I think you're going to have a deep run for LSU this year. Let's see. Brian. Hey, Brian. We're in Louisiana. I'm assuming it's not Parent, it's Parent or Parent, right? Junior? Well, I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe. Respond to me. Let me know. Anyway, he asks, what players that were hurt / had Tommy John last year will make a comeback and or have a big role this season? Okay. Again, kind of got this one a couple times too. Where was there was a question about Chase Shores. And that's one thing I wanted to look up too. Okay, can't find the question about Chase Shores specifically. There it is. Okay, so we'll kind of take those. Joe B was the other, at the JB3 was the other guy who asked, any word on Chase Shores, and if so, what's the time frame? Also, if you'll be at the Houston series, I love to buy you a beer. Yes, I will take a free beer, Joe. Yes, and I will be at the Houston series. We will make that happen. I will absolutely take a free beer. You never turn down free beer, no matter what. Thank you, by the way. That's very kind. All right, so let's talk about that. Hold on, I do want to look this up, too. Short answer to this is I'm not really expecting those guys back this year. Specifically a guy like Chase Shores. We'll see what happens with Jaden Newt, with a guy like Jaden Newt. But I mean, the injury to Chase Shores happened in the Tennessee series, and that, if memory serves me correctly, was in early April, right? Because I'll tell you one reason I remember that. The LSU women were in the Final Four, and that's in early April. Tennessee was March 30th through April 1st. So, and it happened in the second game, the Friday night game of that series. So March 31st is when the injury happened. I'm trying to remember when he had surgery and or find it. And because that's obviously the really important part. But here we go. Oh, darn it. Come on. That's not working the way I want. I'm sorry. This is horrible. This is taking way longer than my bad. I'm almost there. I'm trying to get a date here. So I can give as accurate as a timeline as I can on where he may be in recovery. For what it's worth, you'll remember on yesterday's show, we played a clip from Gage Jump talking about his recovery from Tommy John, and he missed the entire 2023 season, and said at that point he was in month 18, and when you get to month 18, that's when you're kind of full go and no limitations and things of that nature. For this. Okay, so April 25th. So it happened March 31st. April 25th is when Chase Shores posted, about his season coming to an end. So if we're looking at that, say that's when he had the surgery, which I would, kind of imagine if he's, just based on that kind of timeline, not remembering and having the exact date handy anymore. He's not even at 12 months yet. And you have a pitcher who just went through this saying, month 18 through 21 is when you're full go. It's in his best interest to not come back this year. It just get healthy, do all your rehab, come back next year as a junior in a money year and shove and get paid, and maybe win a championship. That's where that should be for him. I mean, this is February. We're in conservatively month 10 or 11 for him right now, so it'd be way late in the season, and it'd be a rush job back. I think just going off hearing from a pitcher who had the surgery and giving his timeline to, another one who's going through that right now. I think that's very premature for this year. Now, again, I'll throw this caveat too. Everybody is different. Everybody's body heals differently. Everybody can rehab at their own pace. All of that kind of stuff is very true. But outside looking in, that's what I would tell you there. The more interesting one is Jaden Newt. We'll see. That'll again would be late in the season. Later, probably 2-3 months in. So again, it might be in his best interest to just chill, come back strong as junior, and see what you can do. It's unfortunate because you haven't seen him yet. He missed his entire freshman year, and you don't really want him to miss his entire sophomore year. But that could be in his best interest. But if not, he'll be back later, probably 2-3 months in. If that is the case. Sorry that took so long for me to find that stuff. That's not listener friendly, and it probably sounded horrible. Anyway, all right, moving on now. Here we go. My guy Harley Ducey here. One question: if Ethan Fry is in the lineup at DH, what would that mean for Travinsky? I've been talking about Fry. Yeah, we talked about Fry earlier in this one too, didn't we? Could you see them both being in there? Could you see Fry overtaking Travinski? I don't know if Fry overtakes Travinski. I don't think that happens. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think Ethan Fry could very well find his way into the starting lineup at some point. The question is where. I mean, if it's DH, that's going to push Travinski to catcher because you're going to have Hayden Travinski in there, provided he's producing like we all think he can, like we all know he can actually. So that again, look, that's the thing with Fry. I think it'd have to be somewhere like first base, or can he nail down an outfield spot? It's a hard outfield to break into. They tried him out there a little bit last year, but I like it a lot, man. I really, really do like it a lot. Rob, at Rob G 1124, after Ack, Herring, Lure, and Guidry, who, if any, are the other reliable bullpen pieces in your view? Rob, you're getting ahead of yourself here. We got the full pitching preview coming up next week. We're going to talk about all that. But we'll get into it a little bit here, and it's a great question. I went on Hunt Palmer's show on Monday afternoon. You should go look that up. It's on demand, of course, and the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel, you can find it. And we talked about this in that segment. And the way Hunt kind of asked it was, do you think they're too left-handed heavy? In the sense that, well, Ack, Herring, Lure, those are guys he just named as reliable guys. They're all left-handed. Cam Johnson, he's left-handed. They are very left-handed heavy in the bullpen. Is that a bad thing? Do they have enough reliable right-handed options? I think two guys they're going to look to immediately are two of the transfers that we talked about yesterday. One being Fidel Ulloa, big righty, who I've talked about plenty this week, that I really liked the stuff when I finally got a chance to lay eyes on him. And I liked the spot they put him in that ball game. And then Cade Woods, transfer from Alabama, is another righty that could be reliable. I'll tell you one guy they're going to want to take that next step is Christian Little. And Little looked better on Sunday than he did the previous week when I saw him. For him, it's just going to be about finding consistency. The stuff can be plenty good enough. We know that. We've seen him have great success early in 2023. That Texas game stands out. He was fantastic. The Ole Miss game, the Sunday Ole Miss game where he started and gave you 5 great innings, stands out. There were moments last year where Christian Little was awesome. There were moments where he couldn't throw the ball over the plate, couldn't get it out. You just have to find that consistency from him. He's going into his 4th year of college baseball now. You got to remember, he did enroll early. He enrolled early. And that's, talk about guys developing at different stages. He should have been in, finishing the senior year of high school. Instead, he's pitching in Omaha with Vanderbilt. It takes a little bit sometimes, but he's a guy that needs to take the next step forward. He has to become a reliable reliever for LSU because he can do a lot of different things. I will tell you, Rob, and again, this is going to be funny because it's another lefty, but I'm going to go Javen Coleman as well. I've really liked what I've seen from Javen Coleman so far in the scrimmages. I've seen him twice. Here, I'll get you the stats real fast. Obviously, he faced the minimum through 3 on Sunday, ended up 3 1/3 with 1 earned and only 1 hit. When I saw him prior to that, it was 2 shutout. So you're looking at right there 5 1/3 and only 1 earned run in those. And by the way, only 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. So really have liked what I've seen from him. And I think he probably starts the season in the bullpen. Maybe could break his way into the rotation, but that's a reliable arm for me out of the pen as well is Javen Coleman. And then you turn to other guys like like Sam Dutton. Can Sam Dutton take that next step this year for LSU? That would be huge because that's another right-handed arm. Can Aiden Moffitt take that next step? Right now, I can't tell you I feel comfortable with Aiden Moffitt going out there and getting LSU outs on an SEC weekend or something like that. The stuff plays. It plays tremendously, but it's just, the consistency of it, finding the plate, is not quite there yet. And guys, again, they develop at their own pace, but that could be someone who emerges late for you, but they have the guys, they have numbers, they have the depth, and that's what gives everyone so much confidence about this staff is they have so many guys. Somebody's going to step up, and somebody's going to take the reins and be that. So right now, I will tell you, I think they look at the 2 transfers, Ulloa and Woods, to really step up there, and Little and Javen Coleman. Those are guys I would go to there. We're gonna get to a few more here. We got to wrap up, so we're gonna have to come back to some of these tomorrow. love the interaction. Love all everything that y'all sent in so far. Cody Walters, what's the shakeout if Pearson at second experiment doesn't work? Guidry at second, Pearson back to left field. That's a great question. I don't really know if I know the answer to that. I don't think it's Guidry because Jay has said he's focusing on pitching right now. And, if they needed, if they were pressed into a situation, they'd feel comfortable throwing him out there. But he's been focusing so much on pitching. I want to stress pressed into a situation. I think obviously Ben DePolt would probably get a shot there, being a veteran. Would get a shot, and yeah, you'd probably see Pearson back to the outfield. But I think this is going to work out, and I'll give you a few examples. Jared Foster played second base for LSU in 2015. Jared spent his whole career before that in the outfield, and that year his bat was awesome, and they needed a place to put him, and second base. And he played well. LSU was ranked number 1 in the country the majority of that year. They won the SEC. It's a really, really good team. Arguably should have won the national title. Definitely could have. But again, that's a similar situation to Pearson, a guy who spent his whole career so far in the outfield. They moved him to second, and he held his own. Then there's Austin Bain. Austin Bain played second base. He was a pitcher, played second base for LSU, and led the SEC in doubles. So I think it can work out with Pearson there. If it doesn't, Ben DePolt, you have the whole host of freshmen that we talked about earlier in the show. And Jay's mentioned Brady Neal and being comfortable potentially throwing Brady Neal in the infield somewhere. I think that'd be kind of crazy considering if you're in this scenario. I think it'd be kind of crazy where you're experimenting with Pearson, and if it didn't work, you go and experiment again. But I think the Pearson experiment's going to be fine. I really do. Because I think guys can survive at second base. It's not a premium defensive position. As much as you want to be strong up the middle, and you do, I don't look at second base as a premium position of defense like I do catcher, shortstop, or center field or something like that. So I think Pearson will be fine. But if it doesn't, DePaul, freshman, if they're pressed into it, Gavin Guidry. That's the Chase Shores. All right, we'll wrap up with Let's wrap up with Dustin Blanchard. Well, we kind of answered that already. Who do you see pitching in high leverage spots? I mean, the vets, Ackenhausen, Justin Lohr, Griffin Herring, all the guys you saw in those spots last year. I mean, a lot of them are back. And then again, you added somebody like Gavin Guidry. You added somebody like Justin Lohr. So, I mean, those guys, I think you see them in there. At PGL 987, do Ethan Fry and or Brady Neal get early playing time? Oh, he was the one who asked about the Cade Beloso thing. So if you're Cade Beloso, I'll go Ethan Fry, even though, again, he's not an older guy. And yes, Brady Neal should be the opening day catcher. I'd be actually surprised at this point if he's not. Jay has said, Hayden Travinski's going to get a lot of DH at bats. That's where he's really going to slot in. Neal's fully healthy. If he's hitting the ball, he's your most complete option at catcher, offense, defense, all of that. So, I mean, yeah, he'll get plenty of playing time early on. The Fonz, at Fonz0202, which player will be in a position that will surprise us? Do you mean physically? Because it'd be Josh Pearson. That's all I've really got for you because he's played outfield his whole time and he'll catch. He'll play second base. So, I'll go there. But that's not really a surprise. I think we all know that they're doing that now. So, outside of that, I really don't. The outfielders. If you mean like actually physically, if that's kind of like who can be in a position to surprise us, come on late, I'll again go with Ethan Fry. All right, we got through a little bit more than half of them. We'll come back tomorrow on tomorrow's show. We'll answer some more because y'all sent in a lot. So if you're listening to this and you have a question that you want to add to it, go find the tweet. It was from Monday. the 5th, and drop a comment underneath there, and we'll get to that tomorrow. We do have to wrap up. So appreciate everybody listening. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Musso at the Box. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell. You'll be notified whenever a podcast is posted. Follow me on Twitter at Musso Matthew. You're listening audio-wise, Google Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere you get your podcast, it's there. Make sure you get subscribed up, like and share it out. Helps grow it. That's what we're trying to do. Just keep on ticking. Each year's been better and better than the year prior, and we're hoping to keep that going. So appreciate everybody tuning in today. We'll continue with listener questions tomorrow and dive into some more surrounding the Tigers as they are 9 days away right now from opening up their title defense in 2024. Thanks for tuning in. Join us tomorrow on Musso at the Box.